bum, bum, bum. Hello? If you can hear me, say something in chat. I think I just barreled through 9 minutes of silence because OBS lost track of my microphone for some reason. Um, Flemish, hi. Have you been watching for the past 9 minutes? Have I just been silent? I just noticed that my sound mixer wasn't like registering that there was any sound. Chattering. I've been chattering at you, not realizing it. Okay. If I'm ever, if it ever looks like I'm talking to you and you can't hear it, oh no, it was definitely on my end. I plugged everything in the same way, but then I noticed just now, just a second ago, that the sound mixer wasn't registering any of the sound that I was making. I guess I'll go through that whole spiel again. 10 minutes or 9 minutes of silence at the start. How embarrassing. What did I say? I said a lot of stuff. I got a million bananas. It was a new record on bananas, 27 bananas for $1. We're not using those bananas today. We're using some frozen bananas because I want to make ice cream. We're making ice cream. What we're making is a tropical ice cream with jackfruit nuts, jackfruit. I've got a. I just need to start from the top and say everything again. Yesterday I found a pork shoulder that I was sure wasn't going to make it to today, so I pre-pressure cooked it so I can use it now. It's all cooked, ready to go, sitting in the magic pot over there. But we don't have to wait for it to pressure cook now, and I can just pull it and shred it up and go ahead with it. And I don't know if I want to serve it. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how I want to serve it yet, but that's the idea over there. And we're gonna go with some tropical flavors. I think I'm gonna throw some jackfruit in there. I think I'm gonna throw some mango juice still. I want it to be like a sweet, sticky thing. Noticed my burner was off center there. We have the jackfruit, which took me an additional several hours, multiple hours to finish cleaning up after I stopped streaming last time. So I'm glad I didn't do it all live. This is how much we got out of it, plus the seeds. And yeah, that's sort of the concept I'm starting with. We're going to do this sort of. It's the last warm day of summer. I'm going to go with a summery thing. You know, a thing. The jackfruit was humongous. I did end up throwing quite a bit more of it away on the other half. Half I started on ended up being the good half, and the other half had a little bit more gnarly stuff to it, and some of that just was like, I don't want to deal with it, and I ended up throwing it away. I also made an executive decision on the fibers and that core thing. That core thing was really interesting, but I just disliked it at all times. So I threw the whole thing away, and the fibers, once I had dug all of these yellow nuggets out of them, were just all this kind of shredded apart stuff that was really difficult to make anything of. And they were also really tough. Even the ones I cooked, which became edible, were still pretty tough. And I just thought it wasn't worth it. So they went in the compost. So all we've got left are the little yellow nugget guys, which I got a ton of. And the nuts and the seeds. Here's the seeds. I want to try roasting these this time. I think they'll be I think they'll respond well to roasting. But step one, first thing, if I want to make a banana ice cream, we're going to start with that. Now, I thought I would just be able to plug the camera back in and have everything be normal when I got back in here, but everything got reset, so we might have to do some fussing and fiddling if stuff does not work quite perfectly. I think I got everything back to how I had it, but I will find out. Oh. So, some frozen banana, and that's we're going with 3 bananas worth. I broke the bananas in half when I put them in here. I broke some of the bananas in half when I put them in here. If I can get another half out. If you're freezing bananas, take them out of the skins. The skins go brown and creepy when you try to freeze them. Oh, I can't get another one off. I guess we're going with 2.5 bananas because I don't want to fight with frozen banana anymore. Oh, I also I guess this also went silent. Thanks to your generosity, and Flemish, you contributed. We have achieved the next tier of subscribers, and I unlocked some emote slots. So I now once again have emotes to fill. Also, 2 of you, and I have not checked who, but 2 of you have gotten into the bit rewards levels of emotes. So now I need to make something for that. We're getting out of Blender. We're getting out the blender. So thank you so much for all the support. This has been a very good month here on the channel for me. And I've done this before, and I don't have a recipe up, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it. Start with a pulse. Nope. It needs just a little bit of liquid, I think, to get it started and to grab. But we don't want much. We don't want too much. It's trying, it's trying. I need a poker. They're a little bit too hard. Oh my God! Shining Spear, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's 5 gift subs plus 2 bonus gift subs, courtesy of Twitch. The bonus gift subs from Twitch are still in effect through today. Today's the last day. You got Helix, you got Jim, you got Hippie? I'm going to go with hippie. Mr. Potatoes, Country Girl, Aladox, and Blue Raptor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That puts us at 37. I got to see when the next threshold is. We're probably we're probably zooming in on it. Wow, thank you so much. Big preach. I'm trying to make what is effectively a smoothie, but we're going to freeze it here. Nope. Problem is these guys keep riding up slightly. Thank you so much. Nope. They really want to ride up and get like caught crossways. Dang it. I feel like I'm just need a new blender at this point. Roll the dice. I have seen, the most extreme one I have seen was a gift of 5 subs that Twitch piled on 10 subs. But most of the time they give you 1, which, Flemish. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh my God, you got like a bunch of people, real people. Thank you so much. Only one comes in hot from Twitch on this one. You got D9, Patsy, Batica, Cybertraz, Goldie, and Fred the Red Cat. I appreciate the attempt. It is definitely a roll of the dice. You also have destroyed my my hype train record with 4. We don't get a lot of hype trains around here. How am I going to get this to really bite? And Bookwoman coming in with a prime. 26. Nope. I don't think this is working. They keep not like falling into the blades. It's too frozen down there. Hi, Bookwoman. Welcome in. Thank you so much for the prime on today, the last day of Subtember. How am I going to do this? I mean, I can just add more milk. Probably the thing is to add more milk. I'm trying to make banana ice cream out of frozen bananas. That's the first thing. Because then it can sit and freeze while we do other stuff. But the bananas don't want to fall down into the blades. They want to ride up on top of the blades, which is stupid. I feel like the blender, we've had so many problems with this blender recently. I think the blender is just dying. It constantly won't grab onto stuff. That, where it just starts free spinning the blade and it won't bite the stuff. And I can't add too much liquid to this because this has to be thick enough to be like ice creamy. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated also because I wanted to use this blender for like 3 things today. Come on. The thing is, I've used this exact blender in the past to do the exact thing I'm trying to do now, which is why I think the blender is dying, because it's failing to do it this time. It's failing to do it this time. And it's frustrating me because this should be as simple as just throw it in there and blend it. But it ain't. It ain't that simple. I can hear it being weird. No, it's just, come on. Blender, what are you doing? It's kind of there, but then there's these big weird chunks that just don't want to fall down into the blade. They want to ride up. Boy, the hype train thing is very excited that we've hit a level 4. Yeah, see, it's not even like, the top part doesn't even move. It's just spinning down there. How do we do this without this blender? Congratulations everyone who participated in the hype train. I got a this. How do we do this without this blender? Okay, problem solving. We're already on problem solving and we've just barely started. I mean, the food processor, but the food processor is too wide. The food processor is too wide. Wide and wide. And I know it's hard because it's literally freezing the milk because the stuff is frozen, but okay. Well, we always have this guy. Max, hi. Welcome. Oh my God, you also subscribe. Everyone's coming in hot. Coming in for the last day of Subtember. We are currently trying to figure out, I think my blender is dying because nothing seems to want to work anymore. There's the big chunk. I guess we'll have to do a goal for a new blender. Well, the consistency of the part that actually was down there by the blade is perfect. That's the perfect consistency I was looking for. This is the perfect consistency I was looking for. Look at how ice creamy it is. Delicious. Perfect. So it's working, it's just Not working. 10 months. 10 months? That's a Twitch baby. That's how many months it takes to do a baby. Don't you know? If you are actually honest about the time. Anyways. Let's see if this part works. I just have to get it so that all the individual bananas are blended, and then we'll be fine. Okay, perfect. I knew it wasn't too thick to blend because I've done it before. So it's got to be that the blender is just starting to give up. Because honestly, this blender is old. I've had this blender for so long, and it was never a good blender. It was a cheap blender. I guess that means I'm going to have to stick with the stick blender in the interim. Oh boy, a lot of excitement. People rolled in. All sorts of things happened while I was struggling with what should have been the simplest, easy first thing. That is the simple, easy first thing. That is, and I'm doing it first because I wanted to re-chill it after I blended it so that it was a nice consistency for service at the end. Obviously, there will have been a little bit of thawing in the process of doing this, and I got these. I got these containers specifically for the purpose of doing ice creams. Oop, there's a chunk that didn't get in the blender. So what we're working with here is bananas, much like eggs, thicken stuff up really well. We did that once where I made cake. I made cake with banana in place of egg, and it worked wonderfully. And we have the same concept, although I added more liquid than I was initially intending to by trying to make the blender work. So this might end up being a little bit extra icy, but if you just chuck some bananas in your blender that actually works properly, you can blend them up into a soft serve consistency-ish. A soft serve-ish consistency. And that's what we're doing here. And I haven't done it for a while. I'm just kind of working from memory, because I have done it before at some point. So that's going to ice up, firm up in the freezer. It's already very cold. But that's going to firm up in the freezer while we do other things, and I will be able to serve it at the end. Put a few things away. Poor blender. I mean, it served me well for a long, long time, so I guess thank you, blender. Oh, okay. So welcome in people who arrived in the past 30 minutes. We had an audio problem right at the start. I had to reset all of my camera because when I moved it to the other room, it just lost its mind. So camera's fresh and new in here. We're doing fruits and nuts and, ooh, that's, speaking of which, that should be the next thing. That should be the next thing, because I want to try these guys. They're still here. I boiled them. These are the seeds, if you'll remember, from our jackfruit. And I boiled them, and they have a consistency similar to a chestnut. But you also roast chestnuts. And I feel like we should do that with these. I've got a thing here, which is Chef's Resource, which is a good place to go. Preheat the oven to 400. Check that there's nothing in the oven that's going to be damaged by preheating. Preheat the oven to 400. Get out a tray for your nuts. Line a sheet with parchment paper. Oh. Okay. Okay. Now, it says I should wash these. They do have a little bit of a sap or juice or something on them. I also think I want ones that are nice and intact, as opposed to the ones that have been caught by the knife while I was cutting through the whole fruit. So we're going to sort out the nice, intact, solid ones. So, how was everyone's weekend? Get up to anything fun, scary, sordid? Okay, our washed seeds. I'm hoping that roasting will give us a better chance of getting those thin skins off, because there's a thin little papery skin on the outside of each one of these that I tried peeling off of them fresh, and it was just impossible to get a hold of. And the ones we boiled, the skin turned like a whitish color, and it separated a little bit, but it didn't really separate very well. And the easiest ones to get a hold of were the ones where I had already cut it partly. Oh, and now they're actually even harder that they've cooled off. That's something to take note of. So that's the only issue I keep having with these. It's just that this papery skin is not nice to get rid of, to deal with. But the nuts are so tasty. I want to figure it out. They're mild, slightly almondy, slightly beany, a little bit of beaniness. There, and that's the papery skin. I'm hoping the roast ones will be a little bit easier to get out of their skin, out of their skins. Watched a lot of movies and lounged about. Sounds like a good weekend. I did stuff this weekend. I had to do laundry. I've been cleaning up the front porch junk alley place. Back here by the steps, I'm sort of tidying up because once it starts to get... We're well away from snow, but some of these things really don't want to get buried in snow, so I got to tidy them up. I have to go out to do my laundry as well, and I went out and did laundry. I have started watching Spy Family, the anime, and that has been delightful. Roasted jackfruit seeds. One fly, once again, as usual. Oh. The other thing we have, and some of you weren't here at the beginning, I gotta figure out what I want to do with pork. We could serve it with rice. We could have a couple little buns. We could serve it as sandwiches. I wouldn't be making my own buns. At some point, I need to make my own buns. That's one of the things I really want to learn to do, is make buns. We might be getting into the time when you just have to do it. Bite the bullet and do it. But I actually saw a pasta that looked really interesting, and I might take our sort of tropical fruit and pork and bring it in with a pasta. That could be really interesting. Spy Family is a recent anime. It's only 2-3 years old, and as far as I know, there's only 2 seasons. I don't know if it abruptly ends. I haven't gotten that far yet, but it's not super long. It's a normal length so far. I don't know. It's cute and wholesome. I don't need to space these out perfectly, but they're supposed to not touch each other, so. Um, but I'm aware of what you're saying. Some the the One Pieces on one side, One Piece that's still going with over 1,000 episodes, and shows no signs of getting anywhere near a conclusion. And on the other side, like Dorohedoro, that got one season, really, really needed more seasons, and just kind of stopped cold. Although the manga, in that case, is still ongoing, or has more. So I think we're making a pasta. I think that's the decision I've talked myself into. Now, what I want is like a wide pasta, but I think large tubes would be okay. What have we got? We've got mac and cheese. We've got orzo. Ooh, shells. Shells might actually be the. I think shells might actually be the pick here. Pork sauce, tropical fruit. Do I incorporate cheeses? Do I incorporate other sauces? Ooh. Well, a lot of times animes are made as adaptations of the manga. The manga proved popular enough to sustain an audience, but animes are a lot more expensive to produce. So they'll roll one out hoping that it will catch on and will be able to gain an audience in order to sustain itself, but they don't. They're unsuccessful, and then they just can't afford to do another season of it, even though the manga is there. So then they'll just say, well, I guess you have to go read the manga. Because tons of them start out as a manga. Okay. So the experiment with the jackfruit in the syrup that was on the side was very strange because the jackfruit stayed pretty firm throughout that cooking process, even though I boiled it and then heated it up to the point where the sugar was starting to caramelize. So that means that they're a pretty sturdy thing. So that'll give us some interesting texture, and it probably means I can cook the heck out of them without a lot of worry. And when I fried the slice right at the beginning, the whole thing browned. The fruit part caramelized a little bit, but didn't soften up very much. So I think you could probably just fry it and it'll hold up. It's a strange fruit. Normally a sweet fruit like breaks down very easily. Not so with these. They must have a lot of fiber in them to hold them together. Picking a pan for this. I fussed around with the induction hot plate a little bit more on my own time, and determined that I definitely need to practice with it. It heats very fast. It heats so fast that I think I definitely burned some stuff on it. But I feel like it was because it heated up much faster than I was expecting it to, and I really should have been tending it in a way that I don't have to with the standard electric burners. I'm going to get some water on the go so that I can get my shells cooking. So just water and salt. So normally shells are for like thick sauces. You get shells in mac and cheese because that sort of really thick, gooey sauce is really good to grab. The little shells are like little spoons. They scoop up some sauce for you. And it's not exactly what I'm going for this time, so I don't know if it's the right shape. I think the shape I want is tagliatelle, which I do not have. And I could fake it if I had some lasagna, but I also don't have that. And the other option would be rigatoni, but I don't think I want the tubes, because I think we're going to go for a really coarse. I think I want to go for a really coarse thing. And my oven clicked. So I'm going to put these seeds in the oven. Slide us over here, and I guess we're going to start chopping stuff up. Ooh, smells extremely tropical fresh in there. Well, not quite so fresh. It smells like overripe fruit, but not like fermenting fruit, just like really sort of almost a sticky sweet smell. On the other hand, there are some animes that I've watched where I caught up to the anime, and the manga was well ahead, and the anime was still in production, so it wasn't that it was just too bad. But I liked it so much that I went and read ahead and regretted it. And that was Attack on Titan. I was quite enjoying Attack on Titan, and when I caught up to where it was at the time, I went and read ahead in the manga, and boy, it went places I was not expecting and did not appreciate. On the other hand, Soul Eater knew they weren't going to get another season of the anime, so they deviated from the plot so that they could wrap things up in a satisfying way. Well, so that they could wrap things up. Instead of leaving it hanging where the manga was prepared to go into a new plot thread, but there wasn't going to be one in the show. And unfortunately, that meant they kind of sold the show short. And it was not an entirely satisfying conclusion, in my opinion. Okay. Sliced up some jackfruit. I don't want to be shy with this stuff. First of all, I've got a ton of it. Second of all, I want the tropicalness of it to come through. So we're going to lean in on it. I'll remind you, this is the part of the jackfruit that's not the meat part. What pan am I using? I also think that we really want to use a butter or animal fat for this. We're getting out the big boy here. Attack on Titan certainly went places that I think the writer had an agenda. An unfortunate agenda. So here's a fun thing that I'm doing. This is the drippings and steaming liquid from the pork shoulder that I mentioned I did yesterday. The pork fat has solidified on top. So I'm going to take a chunk of it and use it to get our pan started here. I left it in the pot to harden up. I should have probably put it in a jar or something, but it was good enough. And yes, that is quite a lot. TK, hi. TK, you're not first. Congratulations, you're not first. In fact, no one's first. But welcome in. Hello. Pile on in. We're doing stuff. I don't think like a political, well, kind of like a political agenda. I don't want to get into too great a detail, but it smelled a lot like the alt-right stuff we're dealing with now, but in anime form. To me. Which I was not a big fan of. How's it going, TK? What's up? Did you get caught in that? Did you get caught in that sub bomb? Or were you already in here? I've lost track. We've had some sub bombs. We've had some extreme community generosity to the point where I've got new emote slots to un-emote. Let me check. Let me check real quick. 2! My God. My God. I don't even know what the threshold is. I don't even know what the threshold is, but at some point today, literally today, you guys have now unlocked another set of emote slots. I had 1 open at the beginning of stream, and now I have 2. So you've done it again. You've done it again. Hurricane cleanup. Oh, you are in the land of hurricane. I have heard that North Carolina got absolutely drowned, mega rained. But I have not heard about anywhere else getting particularly busted up about it, aside from the direct hit on the Florida coast, of course. How's it by you? Just medium level hurricane problem. I'm going to start with the onions. I want the onions to kind of get started. South Carolina. Is that enough shells for me? Well, I cannot relate. I've never been in that region ever. Much less during hurricane season. Okay, this needs to heat up more, fasterer. No power, but plenty of food and water. Well, at least you've got food and water. And cell service. If you're here, you've got some kind of access. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I know parts of North Carolina. They don't even have cell service because the cell towers and the like buried wiring got washed out. And since there's also no roads, they're having to airlift in temporary cell towers in order to get things hooked up, which is pretty extreme. But I'm glad you're put together. Hopefully you don't have anything like spoiling if your power's out. A little bit of salt in our onion here to help speed it up. I want the onion gently browning, but mostly I really want it softened up. Charge your phone and power bank in your car. That makes sense. So then you've got 50 bucks. That's and 50 50's not nothing, but it's not a like disaster. So okay, well, good luck with the recovery. I hope they get the power back on soon. I understand that's also delayed because it's not a case of just some broken connections, but there have been like sections of the transmission lines washed out and have to be physically replaced. What's on the menu? Well, on Friday, if you were here, you know about it. If you don't, you don't. If you weren't, you don't. We cracked open the whole jackfruit, and I spent an hour of that time just disassembling, and then another 3 hours after stream finishing disassembling it. And what we resulted with is a ton of this stuff. These are the fruit pods, as well as the seeds. We have some of the seeds in the oven. I'm roasting them, seeing how they work as a roast. a la roast chestnuts. We have some boiled ones, which is how I did them on Friday. They're difficult to peel, so I'm hoping the roast ones will be easier to get. There's just a little thin, like papery skin on these guys that's just slightly unpleasant. It's not like it's a super deal breaker, but it's not the nicest thing. And I'd rather just like peel it off real quick. But the boiled ones don't want to peel off real easy. So I'm trying to roast some. We have some sliced up these guys here, which I'm going to add to our pork fat onions. Pork fat, you say? Where did that come from? Well, I found a pork shoulder in the bargain bin yesterday and opted to pre-pressure cook it so that I would have tender pull-apart pork for use for my dinner yesterday, but also for other things. Because a 4-pound pork shoulder, even in the pressure cooker, takes an hour and a half, plus the pressuring up time, plus the pressuring down time, plus the cooling down time, because when it comes out of there, it is so screaming hot that you can't even handle it. So I opted to do that part in advance, but we got drippings from the pork shoulder in the magic pot. So I scooped up and I let it cool so the fat solidified on the surface. I just showed it off while I was doing it, but now you can't really see it because I've ruined it. But I just skimmed off some of the pork fat to use as the starter for this. Which is currently just onions and jackfruit. The jackfruit, despite being a sweet fruit, is surprisingly sturdy when cooked. Or it was in my experiments on Friday. So I think it is going to give us some texture here that you otherwise wouldn't get. And I'm not going for a sweet dish, but we are leaning in on the sweet. We're leaning in with the sweet and making sort of a sweet savory thing. We're going to throw in some of the already pressure cooked pork. Oop, TK wants a moisten. I can do that. We also have a dessert for a change, and I did that first, and we fought around with the blender right at the start. I got more. You have to see this. Some of you have not. Only a few of you were here when I showed this off the first time. You guys have got to see this. Behold, my dollar bin. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 bananas for $1. And all of these are banana peppers that have gone orange because they're ripening up massively. They were also $1. And then I got these Thai chilies in a trade for some salsa verde. I don't know why these bananas were in the dollar bin. They look fine, but they were. These guys obviously have a couple of blemishes, and actually I had to throw a couple of them away. But for the most part, they're in good shape. We probably should grab one of these and throw it in our thing we're making. That one. So, yeah, I massively lucked out on that. I'm going to have to do stuff with bananas and jackfruit, because those are now the two things I have in excess. So what we've got in the freezer here the very first thing I did, I made some quick banana ice cream from you blend up frozen bananas and it comes out in a soft serve consistency-ish. And I determined that my blender is dying by trying to do that, which I've done before with this blender, and it didn't work this time. So I think the blender is losing power, probably just because it's very old. So we've got a dessert of banana ice cream to go with all the rest of this nonsense. But yeah, it's one of those cases of, why are these bananas in the bargain bin? Or why are these peppers in the bargain bin? They look fine. And it's probably that new ones came in and they just had to get rid of the old ones to make room. And you just had to be there at the right time. And boy, it was definitely a right time kind of thing as well. Because they were there when I entered the store. And it wasn't just the one bag, it was a whole bunch of them. But by the time I was checking out to leave, they were all gone. Every single one of them. So it is a case of you are there at the right moment to get them, or they're gone. Use the little knife. We're going to take the seed mass out of these peppers because the banana peppers aren't the spiciest in the world, but the seeds get a little spicy. Beer Runner, hi, welcome. How's it going? Happy Monday to you. How was your weekend? What are you having for dinner? These are the standard questions I ask round these parts. Welcome, welcome. If you ever, not just now, but ever have any questions about what I'm doing, what I'm cooking, jump on in with those questions. At present, this is onions, banana pepper, and jackfruit. But if I'm going for savory, wife's birthday. Not sure about dinner. Well, it sounds like it's got to be something nice for the wife's birthday. That is the day you least want to skimp out on dinner. This beastie here needs some garlic. But yeah, we're dealing with the fact that I have far too much jackfruit because I bought one jackfruit, and it is enough to feed me and everyone I've ever met for a year. The biggest, we did the math and back mathed how much it weighed based on how much it cost, and it was like 16, 17 pounds. It was enormous. Oop. That one that one is one of those ones that's too flat to roll in the tube. In our garlic tube. Okay, this is a good idea for the pan. This is a good idea for, you gotta get me one of these tubes? You gave me this tube. Bookwoman, you personally gave me this tube. So I don't know where you got it. So I've pushed everything to the side because the hottest part of this pan is in the middle, but you can push things to the side so they cook a little bit slower, since I am just kind of building as I go today. The garlic tube. I have no idea where it comes from, what branding it is. It has no marks on it. It has a dishwasher safe mark and a little recycling thing on it, although this is definitely not recyclable because this is silicone. But it has no branding on it, no nothing. So I have no clue where to get one of those. But they are super handy. The only time they fail are these ones that are like really wide and flat, because they don't want to roll. They want to like flop. Even then, it typically loosens them up enough that you can get a hold of them. But yeah, it's a super handy tool. When I briefly thought that I had lost it, I was very sad because I don't know where to get a new one, and also I use it all the time. And it turned out that I didn't lose it. I hung it up to dry after washing it and forgot that I had done so. Okay, let's slide back over here. Get our garlic in our pan. We can't sit around forever on our pan. Things are going to start burning, especially the garlic. But everything has softened up nicely and lost a lot of its volume, which is what I was looking for. We will slide back over. Despite using jackfruit today, we're also using meat. Which I've already carved some chunks off of, but this is the guy. He had a bone in him. It was a bone-in shoulder. And it has been lightly seasoned. I seasoned it with a little bit of one of the jars, which I think was a birria. I need a big knife. I'm not going to go through the trouble of fully shredding. But we are just kind of coarsely hack it up. And the fibers should kind of separate from each other as this heats up. In the pan. Slide over, get this stuff in there. This is our main event. Enough to get some crispy edges, maybe? But we're going to make this saucy in the end. Okay. The meat will start heating through, and the remaining fat that's caught up in it will start to melt into what we've got going on over there. Over here you can see we've got a chunk of it left. It kind of stuck to the grating. I tried cooking it with the grating in there to make it easier to lift the whole thing out at the end, and it entirely worked. I was able to lift it out in one piece. Now it's been detached, but at the time it was sort of stuck on there without like squeezing it, because that's the problem I have when I pressure cook. Stuff gets so soft that when you go in there with the tongs and try to get it out with the tongs, it breaks apart because you're like pinching it. This was able to just lift it out neatly. And you can see the bits of floating fat that are still down in there and some of our juice. I would like to use some of the juice in our thing here without getting a bunch more of that fat, because we already have the fat in there. So that is going to be our next challenge. Fortunately, the fat floats, so it should float sort of away to the back. As I attempt to pour, but also I will hold it off with the spatula. Now the juice is a combination of drippings from the meat and also just water, because I poured a cup of water in the bottom, because if you're pressure cooking, you got to put some liquid in there. But it has a bunch of flavor that I want to capture. I'm also going to give it a fresh dose of the same sauce that I put on the top. I'll just pour it out. This stuff, which we made a birria, so this is a spiced stewed peppers that have been blended. I think that will give us some spice and dimension. And also I got to use these things up. I got a bunch of jarred stuff in here that just has to get used. I can't keep looking at it and be like, oh, I should use that. Because I do that a lot. I'll open a thing up like, oh, I should use that, and then I don't use it. But that has tomato and a variety of peppers and a whole bunch of spices in it. So that should give us, and I'm pretty sure I overcooked these shells, but I'm okay with that today because the noodle I wanted, which I didn't have, was tagliatelle. And a fresh tagliatelle would come out sort of very floppy. clunk. There was a clunk from my back corner. So having the noodles be a bit overcooked, I think will achieve a similar effect. But I want to thicken this up first by cooking the water out of it that we just put into it, but leaving the flavor. What else do we want to put in there? I should give it a taste. Where's my little taster spoon? Covered in banana. Give it a taste. You should always taste your food as you're cooking. For flavor balance, for spice levels, for salt content, for all those things, because it's much easier to add stuff and make corrections while it's in progress compared to at the end. I'm going to throw some black pepper in there. We always love black pepper. Okay. As I mentioned, we've unlocked some more emote slots. And you know what? If you've got any ideas and or just want to hang out in Discord and see the pictures of the food that go in Discord, hey, we have a Discord. Let's see. This is very sort of brown green, or brown, yellow, and orange is the colors I'm working with here. So it could use some green to sort of balance it out and make it pop. I also think I want a little bit more sweetness in it. The jackfruit doesn't really give up much sweetness when you cook it. It's not extremely sweet to begin with. It's just very mild. And it also really seems to like to hold on to the sweetness that it has. But not too much sweetness. So what do... simplest thing would just be some sugar, but that feels wrong. It's also quite oily, and that suggests that it needs some acidity to balance it out, which makes sense. There's a lot of fatty pork in there, so some acidity is definitely called for. Not too much. I don't want to make this sour. I want just enough, just a dash, to sort of balance it out, round it out. So I'm going to give it just that much apple cider vinegar. Because again, this is supposed to be kind of fatty, greasy. A little bit of acidity might wake up some of our fruity flavors as well. I could do lots of things. We don't have a recipe, so I am just winging it. What else does it want? It's not going to need any cheese because it's already got that fattiness to it. Let's see. Lemon. Banana ketchup. Banana ketchup? Banana ketchup. Potentially banana ketchup. Cane syrup. honey. Ooh. It's a classic. It's a classic, and I think it's the right call today. Get out a fresh spoon to avoid contaminating my honey. I think just a scoop of honey to sort of perk up the sweetness. Because again, it's not that I want this to be like sugary sweet. I want this to be just like sweet savory. And a little bit of sugar will also help it thicken a tad, as will some starch water, which is why I wanted to cook the existing water down quite a bit. As for green, since it's a pasta, parsley would be the most like traditional, but we're in kind of a non-Italian place with this right now. So I think some scallions thrown in late so that they're still pretty green is going to be a better bet. I don't want to cook them. I almost want to throw them in just as a topper, as a garnish. This stuff's getting pretty thick, so I'm going to give it more heat and a dash of our starchy pasta water. I don't want to put the pasta in there until the end. We are going to put the pasta in there. And I want just a... Oh, this sounds excessive, but I'm going to throw a tab of butter in there as well, right at the end. And by tab, I mean a pat. It'll give us a glossier finish. We'll just have that sitting on the side there. Adding butter to a sauce right at the end, not cooking it through fully, but just adding it in so that it melts and then mixing it through, is a French technique, which I don't know the name of in French, but it translates in English to mounting the sauce, or thereabouts. And if you've never done it, first of all, it's very unhealthy, because it's just adding some butter to your food, which is tasty, but not good for you. Okay, that's coming together. I want to get more of the liquid out of it. I want a rich and unctuous thing going on, not a soup. We're cooking it down instead of doing it the easy way, which would be just to throw some starch, some either cornstarch or my new favorite, tapioca starch, directly into it, just to force it to thicken into a glossy, unctuous sauce, which is, based on the cuisine I'm kind of orbiting around, would be the correct way, just to thicken it up with some starch. But, oh well, I guess I'm just not doing that for some reason. I'm going to throw in the white parts of our scallions a little early. We'll save the dark green parts for service at the end. Okay, okay. What time are we looking at? 1:30. Okay, time to hit this with the big heat and really blast the living heck out of it. Get it to the point where it's almost trying to like adhere to the pan, just stick down. While it's doing that, we will drain the remaining water out of our shells. The shells got very big because they are overcooked. So I probably didn't need to add the last like tiny little half handful of them, but whatever. Oh well, too late now. Actually, looking at the amount of sauce I've got, I probably should have done the whole remainder of the shells and just had leftovers. Also, our nuts have been in there quietly cooking away for way longer than I was initially intending. So let's pull those out and see what they see if they've burnt. They certainly have changed color. They certainly have changed color. I actually completely forgot they were in there until I remembered that I was also making a dessert, and they're supposed to be part of that. They might be a little bit toasty. Okay. Pasta, get in there. Again, if you have tagliatelle, I think that this is a tagliatelle dish. If you don't, then, you know, just whatever. Just whatever. Such as shells, because I don't have tagliatelle. And who really ever has tagliatelle on hand? It's not a pasta shape that you buy in a pre-made. It's the pasta shape that you make at home when you're making your own pasta and you just are like, I'm going to cut them real wide. That's looking pretty on point, actually. I'm trying to get these little clumps separated so we get separate individual shells. The shells like to kind of nest into each other, which is kind of annoying. Kind of annoying. Okay, I'm going to take the heat off. Let that coast on residuals. Catch you around, Beer Runner. We're actually getting close to the end point, but glad you could make it. Come back anytime. This is my normal time. And yeah, stay tuned on the Discord for food picks. There's the butter that I promised. Okay. Our scallions are all sliced up. Our butter is melting. We want the butter to just melt, get stirred through all this, and then we serve. And what it does is it amps up, like I said, the glossiness. It gives you this really sort of rich coating sauce, which thoroughly cooked out butter doesn't do the same way. You'll see French sauces actually will start with butter and then add more butter at the end because they want the butter to be fully cooked out, and they also want that pop of fresh butter right at the end because they are different. Much like I say with garlic, and the different forms of garlic are like different. We're gonna do a top garnish with our scallion. I need a new board. Oop, I need a new board. Okay, I might have ruined the nuts, so we're gonna find out. We're gonna grab one. Oh, it's beautiful. It came off perfectly, and it got a nice little nut. This is the part that I was having a hard time getting off of the boiled ones, and it came off of this roast one in a second, in a perfect second. They're pretty fragile on the inside. Oh, the inside shrank. That's why. That's why they're coming off so nice. Okay. This should work for what I want to use these for well, though. And I will keep that in mind, and we will roast these all up for the future because it is way easier to get these off than the boiled ones. The boiled ones were just a nightmare to get off. Like getting one off just to snack on it wasn't so bad, but getting any kind of numbers off was not good. But it super works with the roast ones. So that's how you do. That's 100% how you're meant to do these. Is you roast the seeds. And that first one actually had a cut in it that I had not previously seen, and it still didn't seem to have any negative effect. So I think the partially cut ones are also going to be fine. I probably over roasted these a bit because I definitely forgot about them. So let's taste one straight up. But yeah, how quick that was. That's about the time it takes me to do one of the boiled ones. And they came out pretty clean. Oh, they're chewier. They're less chestnutty this way. They have a very toasty flavor. They're still tender. It's very different. They have a chestnutty texture. And they're toasty. But they also have this like crunchy, chewy layer on the outside that's much less crumbly than the interior. Oh, that's very nice. Oh, they're very good. Oh, they're very good. What was I about to do? I was about to give them a chop. What I wanted to do that I couldn't do with the skins on the outside was just kind of chop them up. Gosh, why don't they sell the, like, I've seen all the other parts of the jackfruit sold separately. I've never seen the seed. as like a separate thing that you can get. They have a ton of seeds in them, so it's not like there's a shortage of seeds. Okay, we're going to save that. What I wanted was a jackfruit nut topping for my ice cream. Which I have succeeded. Okay, and then we're plating up our main event dish. Probably a good solid 2 servings out of this. So I should just plate up 1 nice plate's worth and then save the remainder for tomorrow for lunch. Can't really see all the stuff that's going on in there, but we all saw it go in together, so we know it's in there. Clean up our plate a little bit. And as I said, I'm not adding cheese to this because it's already very much sort of a, it's got enough fat going on as it is. It's sort of this rich fattiness to it. So we don't need that. We need the green here to just kind of make it pop a little bit. And we serve this side forward. Let me go grab our photograph. It looks good. It smells good. I also don't want to fill up on a giant plate of this because I have ice cream. That is the other half of our day, which we will get to in just un momento. But we're going to taste this while it is nice and hot and fresh. And I want to get a little bit of everything in my first bite. So pasta, pork, pepper, jackfruit. Ultimately, the jackfruit did shrink up quite a bit in that longer cook. So that probably is something to keep in mind for the future. I'm glad I added that little bit of honey because it's just a hiss of sweetness. It's got this really low, late, sort of back of your throat heat to it. It's gentle and it comes on really late. Up front, the first thing that hits you is that the richness. This is a very rich, fatty thing. You want to serve this with like a glass of wine and like a side salad with a vinaigrette on it, something sharp. And that richness carries through right up until you swallow it. It really just kind of coats your mouth with this unctuous goo. And then it has, coming in with that savoriness, but a little bit later, it has this just subtle kiss of sweetness. And then right at the tail end, a gentle heat rolls in. And there's a fruitiness to it, but it's super subtle. And I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was if I didn't know what it was, because it's just this whisper. It's just a whisper in there. This is, ooh, I would serve this. I would serve this to a visiting dignitary, and they'd be like, "Ooh, what is this?" And then I would tell them, and they'd be like, "Oh, those are pretty normal things." Yes, I think if I was using tagliatelle, I wouldn't have chopped the pork up quite as much. But this is what shells are meant to do. When people say all the pasta shapes taste the same, they do taste the same when you eat them naked. The shapes are meant to do stuff, though. And this is exactly what the shells are meant to do. They wrap around your ingredient, especially these sort of thick, chunky sauces. Like little spoons. They're like little tiny spoons. This might be just a tad too chunky for shells, but I also overcooked the shells a bit so they're like slightly floppy and slightly bigger, just from soaking up more water. But yeah, all the shapes are meant for things. They're not just there to look nice. They're meant to grab onto different sauces in different ways. And this, because I knew I was using shells, I tried to chop stuff up a little bit more. That's a perfect example. Small shells are for small things. Weeformer. Weeformer, what are you doing? 100 bits. What are you doing? Welcome. Hello. You're in time to see this. This is really freaking good. And there's a whole nother serving over there, so, you know, I guess pull up a bowl. Hi, Weeformer. Thanks for the bits. Weeformer. Question for you. Because you recently, possibly I've lost track. There's too many things in my feed. Not long ago, have put me over the line into you qualifying for a 1,000-bit emote, which means I need to make one. So what do you want? You're here. You're here. I can ask you directly. I don't know who's all in that, but I know you are. You're also here to see the service of the second half, which I want a dark colored bowl for. Or a teacup. But hello, welcome. We're doing the thing. We're doing the thing. Here's the thing. You want a coffee milk emote. Well, I mean, I can make mythological things if you really want. Ooh, this stuff is hardened, but also not quite hardened. It's close enough. There's too much milk in it. Normally when you do this, it's much more stable because there's not that milk in it, which is why it's going icy on me. So we're not going to get nice, perfect round. What we have here is banana, quote-unquote, ice cream with roast jackfruit nuts, which we just found out is the best way to make jackfruit nuts. Let me take a picture of that real fast before it melts at all, because it is going to try to melt real fast. I will show off how to make this correctly at some point when I've got a working blender. Wouldn't you want something more realistic for an emote? You know? Okay. So I don't think I can freeze that stuff fully because it's just going to harden up. But okay, what we have here is unsweetened banana ice cream with roast jackfruit nuts. Weedformer, if you want to draw me any emotes at all, because we now have a bunch of slots open because we've had such a good month. You let me know. You've got my Discord. You can reach me. I'm not going to stop you. So what this tastes like is a banana smoothie. There is no getting around the fact that this is just a banana smoothie, but it is the consistency of soft serve ice cream. Now, I added a bunch of milk because I couldn't get my blender to bite onto it. Normally, don't do that. Normally, you want to just blend the frozen bananas directly, and they will come out this consistency. And then you can add flavors to it if you want, but they have to be things that aren't going to add a lot of liquid to it, because that will affect the consistency. So you can do syrups, sugars. I wouldn't do other whole fruit because, like I said, you don't want to add a bunch of liquid. Bananas are very low moisture, which is what enables them to actually do this without just turning into a block of ice. The jackfruit nuts, they're definitely a little firmer than the boiled ones, but they add a fun texture and a toasty flavor that I wouldn't mix them in because I would be afraid of like not being able to mix them in to the blended banana without messing it up. But as a topping, I reasonably like them. I think if I cooked them a little bit less, waited for those outer skins to whiten up like this, because to compare, here's one of our roast ones. Here's one of our boiled ones. You'll reach out and emote upon me. Good. And here's one of our fresh ones. So there's a distinct visual change where the outer skin has dried and turned white. And I think if I just watched them and waited for that stage, we could probably get these into the easy peel mode. While cooking them a little bit less, I think I overdid them a little bit, and that's why their texture has gone a little extra chewy compared to the boiled ones, which have a wonderful, like, chestnut texture. And I think that's just a case of me having lost track and overcooked them a bit. Glad I didn't do the whole thing at once. TK staring at the pasta, which, fair enough. It's definitely the star of the show today. Oh, and it's a good one. It's a good one. You do not have to have jackfruit to make this. You actually don't have to have slow-cookered pork to make this. You could do what I did. You could do what I did to make this with any fatty meat. And then there's an onion, a pepper. You could use a bell pepper. You could use a hot pepper. And then for a fruity ingredient, if you have the jackfruit, I would say go for it. Otherwise, you could do this with tomato and it would become much more acidic, which probably would balance it out. I went with sweetness to balance the savoriness, but the acidity would also work. But like ground pork or like a higher fat ground beef, chicken thighs, something fatty and greasy with which to build the starting. Mango would be very good. Yes. No, mango would be excellent for this. It has to be something like that where it's a little bit firmer. You don't want it to just be complete mush. Mango would be excellent for this. I'm going to run through other fruits. Leftover sauce would be great on rice. I fully agree, and I actually almost did this with rice, and I decided to go with pasta. Also, hi George. You're here in time for the end of the tasting while we kind of talk about what to do different. I don't know that I would do anything different. I think more than doing something different, this is flexible enough that you could do other things different. Right, it doesn't have to be a fruit. You could take this in a less sweet direction. I opted for the sweet balance, but if you're taking this in the more directly savory direction, a vegetable would also go in there, like a zucchini. Oh, you could do like pumpkin, or like some kind of winter squash. That would also go well with what we've got going on here. That would also take you in that sweetness direction, and those have some sturdiness to them, so they don't just disintegrate. I wouldn't do like, I don't know, apples, because when you cook apples, they tend to fall apart. You've actually a baking apple. Those really like the sturdier apples might hold up enough to pull this off. If you're using any kind of a softer fruit, I would put them in later so that there's a little bit more of them left. The jackfruit is still intact pieces. They shrink up a little bit, but they're still intact pieces. And they still have like a bite to them, which is part of the point. I noticed that they really don't soften up when you cook them, so I wanted to do something where I would cook the heck out of them with the intent of that texture staying there. And it really has. So, not so much as a recipe, but as a general technique, broad strokes general technique, try something like this at home. It's easy. It's dry pasta, any kind of fatty meat, some onion, some pepper, and then one of those vegetables. And just don't go nuts with a bunch of extra sauce. And taste as you go. This is a good like practice taste as you go, because it's hard to mess this up with the basic set of ingredients. So you can tweak and taste and tweak and taste as you go. I'm not a big proponent of following recipes mindlessly. I really love learning the techniques. This is delicious. I don't know that I've just came out right up and said, but this is fabulous. My doctor's going to say, don't eat that. You're going to get cholesterol. But oh, 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 don't listen. Listen to your doctors. My ice cream is starting to melt. I'm very happy. This is very tasty. And boy, we're coming up to cheap pork season because they're producing all those hams for the various holidays. So the other cuts of pork are starting to hit stores at steep discounts, which is where I got this pork shoulder. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. You can get some really good deals on some really good pork, just not the hams, because that's the part that's getting upsold, is the hams. But you can get shoulder, you can get butt, you can get all the bits and bobs. So keep an eye out. You can make some really nice stuff. Anyways, I think I'm going to wrap us up so that I can gonna put this ice cream on a plate and chill the whole thing to slow down the melting process a bit. I've got dates. We could have done something with dates. Oh, because I've got a little puddle right. Oh, wow, we're getting a little bit of a washout on main cam here. Interesting. I did have to readjust all my camera settings when I got back over here, and I guess I didn't tweak it quite perfectly. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap us up so that I can enjoy this while it is still warm. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, for showing up throughout the thing. Thanks to WeFormer for the bits. Thanks to Bookwoman for the resub. Thanks to Mags for the resub. Let's scroll down. We got a lot of stuff. Thanks to Flemish for 5 gift subs, plus a bonus from Twitch. Thanks to Shining Spear for 5 gift subs, plus 2 bonus from Twitch. You guys nailed a hype train as well. This has been a delightful. This has been a delightful month. This has been a delightful day. We have smashed through the goal. My sub goal was 25, and we are at 42. We have crushed our way through that sub goal. So thank you so much. It has been an excellent Subtember for my little tiny channel here, and I'm so glad you guys like it and keep coming back. What's one dish I've always wanted to try but haven't? I mean, there's a lot. My thoughts on the price of ham from the Honey Baked Ham Company. I can honestly say I have no thoughts on the subject. I don't believe I've ever purchased ham from that company. So, yeah. There is something I have always well, not always, but for a long time I have wanted to try. And it is a Russian dish. It's essentially caviar blini, little tiny pancakes with the sour cream and some real caviar. I'm very smart too. Thank you. Is it very low quality ham? It probably is, if that's the way you're talking about it. Um, but for the most part, TK, when I run across a dish that I want to try but haven't, I make it myself. I come here with you and make it myself. Oh, it's a very expensive ham. I was just looking at some very expensive ham in the charcuterie section of my local grocery store. They have some speck. I don't know if you're familiar with speck. Um, I love speck. It's very good, but it's pricey, and you get just a tiny little bit of it in a package. But yeah, the price of ham isn't going to come down much. There's just going to be more hams in the store. And then all the other parts of the pork are coming down because they're producing those hams, and people want hams for the holiday dinners. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and to a lesser extent, Easter sometimes. But it's really the Thanksgiving through Christmas section where they're pushing out hams, and all the rest of the pork also has to get sold, so they just start cutting prices on it. And that is why McDonald's does the McRib in the fall, because they're taking advantage of that cheap offcuts from the ham production. And I brought up the subject of holidays. Yes, okay. I did bring up the subject of approaching the holidays. The next holiday coming up is Halloween. Tomorrow is October. Where has the year gone? Time has flown. I don't have specific plans, but there's going to be some pumpkin spice something, and it's not going to be sweet because I hate sweet pumpkin spice stuff. We're going to do pumpkin spice. You know what we should do? You know what we should do? You know what we should do? Lamb shoulder. Pumpkin spice lamb shoulder. Show you how it's done. But yes, Halloween. I also. Okay, Friday we were in the other room there, just around the corner. Partially because the jackfruit was too big, partially because I wanted to test the camera setup. I've got a thing. I'm going to show it to you. Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. I've got a thing that I want to paint. And it definitely can't be done in here. It's too big. So hey, I'm going to work out how to set myself up to paint this thing at some point. And yeah, there you go. It's dinosaur. It's a wall mount. It's a taxidermy wall mount for a dinosaur. I've had this thing for ages. And I've always looked at it and been like, I should paint that. It used to be in my bedroom at my parents' house when I was a kid, on the wall. And I was looking, I should paint that. Well, what better time to do that than here with you guys? So, I don't know when that's going to happen. No clue. But hey, now that I've told you about it, I'm obligating myself to follow through. You know what? You know what? TK, I apologize. I apologize to you for one thing. An hour ago, you said, moisten. And I went, I can do that. And I went and got a glass of water. And I set that glass of water down. And I didn't do the moisten. So, thank you for the moisten. Moist. Sorry, I owed you a moisten. Anyways, yes. So part of my camera setup in there was a test run to see how I could get a good angle where you could see stuff for that thing, and the angle worked out pretty good. So I think I'm good to go. I just have to, again, exactly what Bookwoman said. I got to figure out what kind of paint would stick to it. It's kind of some kind of weird foam material. I think anything with a solvent in it would probably eat the foam, so we got to be careful that we don't just destroy it. So that'll be a little bit of research. Yeah, also it's spooky month, and I always talk about playing games, and I should actually do that at some point. So I don't know what I'm going to paint it as color-wise. Also, realistic could be anything. Realistic could be anything. Primer is a good idea. Because nobody knows what dinosaur's color was. So I could do anything and say, that's realistic. We'll get to it when we get to it. And yeah, test around the parts where it's harder to see. And then I gotta hang it somewhere. Put it on the wall. Anyways, just a taste of things to come. Let me rate us out. What do we got? What do we got? Let's see. There's somebody having there's going to be a bunch of subathons today because today is the last day of Subtember. So people are trying to take advantage of that and get all those bonus subs. Twitch has been so generous this year. It's crazy. Last year they really skimped, and the year before they really skimped. They've been really generous this year, which is such a nice change of pace for them to be actually like helping out. So there's an uncapped subathon, which is on day 6. Damn. LaFay has started a new game. Day 1. That might be worth checking out. We love LaFay. We go to see LaFay all the time. I was watching Ever earlier today playing Zoocosis. It looks like he's jumped over to Satisfactory, so I don't think we're gonna follow up with that because Zoocosis. I might have dumped you guys on Zoocosis if he was still playing it, but his thumbnail shows that he's on something else now. So, Ty Robs. Tell you what, we're gonna go. We've rated him a couple of times, and I have a good time when we do. So we're gonna go to Ty Robster again. He's making spicy, not spooky soup. LaFay is a treasure. We rated LaFay last time. And she got all weirded out because we had a just chatting segment, and any little change, she's like, whoa, what's different? So we're going to go see Ty Robster. He's making a spicy, not spooky soup. We're going to find out what's all in it because he's a very dedicated keto chef. We can tell him all about this thing that we've done. Yeah. So, I know I love rating LaFay too, but we gotta spread the love sometimes. So yeah, look for me to be back for sure Friday with typical stuff. But I feel like I should squeeze in other projects on other days. So whenever I work out what kind of paint you can actually put on that thing, and what it's made out of. We'll try to squeeze that in. There's my countdown. Thanks so much. I've already given a bunch of thank yous, so goodbye.